This exercise is called side lying hip cars. And so as you're doing this, you're going to really focus on driving the bottom leg through the floor. I like to often say in class that there's two scales, one underneath the knee and one underneath the underfoot or the bottom foot. And you're trying to make the scale a lot heavier. So as you go through this, and I'll go through this a little bit slower. So the first movement is taking your heel towards your butt and then pressing up towards your chest. All right, and then as you're doing that, you're still keeping in mind that the bottom leg is pressing down towards the floor. You'll open up, press back behind you, and then stack yourself back. So press back into hip extension, hip flexion and abduction, and then coming down. And so as we go a little bit slower, that hip flexion that we're talking about is just straight up here. And then we continue to open up here into abduction as best you can while driving that bottom leg down, internal rotation of the hip, and then you transition into hip extension, which is you're driving your foot and your hip into that back wall or towards that back wall, as you can see, and then you stack. And then you have to go back to where you came from. So hip extension, external rotation here, transition up to abduction and flexion, or raising up towards the outside of that left shoulder, and then you press down actively as you're going here, and then you stack and relax. So then I move to the other leg, and then you'll do a few from the other side. So, and this is just a different angle to be able to see what we're working with. So up into flexion, open up, and then that bottom leg's driving down, press back behind you, and then stack. And then as you can see here, my top arm, or my right arm, is kind of giving myself a self cue. So I'm making sure that the pelvis isn't moving, just the hip joint is moving on its own without having my belt buckle is a word that I often use, not having the belt buckle move, or a cue that I often use. And then you go through hip cars. All right.